This, as you might have guessed, is an apple. An innocent, sweet, beautiful apple that for the last 1500 years seems to have been implicated in dooming most of the Western population to a life of guilt and sin and regret and all sorts of negative emotions. All because one man chose to refute the word of God and eat from the tree of knowledge, and thus we were all condemned, never to be forgiven, never to escape, until we reach heaven and someone passes judgment on us and decides whether or not we shall pass through the gates and into heaven. If I cut this sweet, juicy, innocent apple, you'll see a 5-pointed star and a number of seeds. Seeds are kind of like the origin of life, you could say. Unfertilised. Well, fertilised or unfertilised? Must have been fertilised together. Anyway, chicken and egg. There we go. Seeds, stars. 5-pointed stars. Now, why am I interested in pointing that out? You don't find 5-pointed stars very often in nature. You get starfish, certain few crystalline forms, and then, of course, this 5-pointed star in the middle of an apple. The first time we saw in human culture the representation of a 5-pointed star was in the Babylonian culture dating back 5,000 years. Around 3,500 BC they discovered Babylonian pottery which had 5-pointed stars inscribed on the side of them. And not long after that it appeared in the ancient Egyptian cultures and was used as a symbol for Sirius. Sirius is a star, the second closest constellation to our particular part of the solar system. And Sirius is in fact not one star, but 2 stars. And the 2 stars that spin around each other, as they cross our night sky, form a helix, a very subtle one, impossible to notice with the human eye, but with very good telescopes we've been able to observe this. But the 2 stars, one much larger than the other one is completely invisible to the human eye. As they move across the night sky, instead of having Sirius forming a smooth arc, what happens is the 2 spin around each other in a helix form like that of DNA. And so what we actually observe from Earth is instead of Sirius moving smoothly, we get this kind of snake formation across the sky. So Sirius, the 5-pointed star, the snake, and then the tree of knowledge, the tree of life, the tree of conscience. The description of this particular tree depends on the culture. It's featured in the Torah, in the Quran. They're both the Judaic and Islamic scriptures respectively, and is also featured in world stories from all over the globe. Almost every culture makes references to 5-pointed stars, to Sirius, not always together, the tree of life, and the serpent. Now the serpent, as I said, traced its way across the sky, but the serpent was also, to ancient cultures, a symbol, to many ancient cultures, the symbol of the divine feminine, the goddess. And of course, long before the Christian, Judaic, Islamic, patriarchal, male god religions, we had many earth religions that considered the ultimate godhead to be female. So it's interesting that as the patriarchal religions took over this planet, what was originally the female godhead was subverted and made into a male one, and the female representation, the serpent, was turned into a form of evil. In the modern Christian telling of the story of Genesis, where we came from, the seed of creation, the woman was merely formed out of a rib, out of the man's body. Whereas much older versions of this story had the male and the female created equally at the same time, not one coming from the other. And so the reason I'm sharing all this is because somebody asked me about this story, and I've been trying to just corroborate some of the information within it. But basically, the way I see it, the story of Adam, the snake, the tree of knowledge, and the apple is not a story which is meant to condemn us to original sin for the rest of our life. It's the story of the seed of our origins. Now, whether or not we actually came from Sirius is, for me, neither here or there. It's a nice story. Certainly more interesting than the Christian interpretation. But of course, there are loads of other interpretations of the story of this particular story, including one relating to Kundalini, including the Freudian, and in particular the Jungian interpretation of this story is very interesting. And I'm including, just to the right here with all the text, lots of links to some interesting pages on this information. But beyond that, hopefully it will restore to us the natural beauty of biting into an apple.